Now, if it's really difficult at times to work with the tab stops and to either put them on the ruler or to take them off, like let's say I want to be able to remove this tab stop. As you recall, you can click on it and drag it off, but if you over miss it and you click, you add another one. And so you want to make sure you're right on top of it, and then you can click on it and hold it and drag it down and it disappears. If you're having problems with working on the horizontal ruler to either add or remove tabs, there's another way that you can go about working with those tab stops. And this may not be helpful, but I want to bring it up anyways, is if you can double click really fast on one of the tab stops, it brings up the tabs window here, where you can actually set the position, and the two positions that they're currently at is the 3.25 and the 6.5. And notice when I select the 3.25, what tab stop is it? It's the one that aligns it to the center. So it stops the tab when you hit the tab key, but then once you start typing text at that stops, it centers it. And when I hit the 6.5, this one over to the right is at the right alignment. So you can actually set them here and clear them. But first of all, let me click cancel. The whole point being is that if you can't work with the stops on the tab to remove them, let alone double clicking on one to bring up the tab window, let me close out. You can bring it up another way, and that's by either coming up here on the Home tab to the Paragraph group and clicking on its expandable dialog box button, or go to the Page Layout tab because the Paragraph group is there as well, and click on its expandable dialog box button, and you get the Tabs button right here. That way, you don't have to mess with that little tick mark there, the tab stop, to see if you can double click on it just to open up this window. If you can, kudos. Now keep in mind that when you start working in this window, that if you don't have all of the lines selected, it's only going to be working or dealing with the line, let me click cancel, that has the cursor on it. So if I click and drag to select all of the lines, and then go ahead and double click on any tick mark, instead of going to paragraph, expanding it, and then clicking on tabs, in any case, whatever works best for you. Now whatever I do in this window right here will affect all of them. So if I say, you know what, I really don't want the 6.5-inch tab stop, select it, click clear, click OK, and it removes it. If you want it back, then of course we can come back up here, expandable, tabs, and then type in 6.5, and once you type it in for that position, what kind of alignment do you want? We want it the right. Go ahead and click set, click OK. Hey, we're back to where we started. That's probably a little bit easier, especially if you're working with a monitor that the resolution is such that these things are so tiny you can't even see them, let alone work with them. Now, in addition to the tab stops, I don't know if you saw it in the window. Let me go ahead and bring it back up, double click on the tab stop there. Down below you have what are called leaders, and the default's none. You get three other options, and what they do is they lead the eye when reading. Let me click cancel. So if I come up here, go to the Home tab, turn off the codes, and let me click off. And let's say that the whole page is filled with all these books here, and I'm looking at one of these books and I'm going, let's see, the Scooby-Doo, and my eye starts going up this way, and it's by J.K. Rowling, and the cost is $17.50. Well, you get the point. Your eyes can go all over the place, and if you want to be able to lead the eye from the book that they're looking at, Scooby-Doo, with a bunch of dots to go right to the author, and they can follow the dots over to the cost and not be led somewhere else because there's nothing leading the eye, then go ahead and use the leaders. So take me to your leader. You can do that by, again, coming up here, double-clicking on the tab stop or the expandable for the paragraph, selecting tabs. Now remember, when you're working in this window, wherever your cursor's at, it's only going to apply to that line. So let's go back, click cancel, get this beat into our heads here. Make sure that you select everything here that you want the leaders to apply to. Let's just do these three paragraphs or lines, and then come back up here and double-click really fast, and then set our leaders. Now we have tab stop positions first at the 3 1/4 inch. So at the 3 1/4 inch, it's going to be the center line. Let's have it lead out with the dots here. Go ahead and set it, click OK, and hey, isn't that fun? But what about leading our eye from here over to the right? Then we have to go ahead and reselect everything and double click on that tab stop. And then instead of going just to the 3 1/4 inch, we want to finish from the 3 1/4 inch to the 6.5. Once we select it, we can, you can choose another option if you want, do dashes. It doesn't have to be dots. And make sure you set it and click OK, and there you go. So you can mix and match, but of course that's not very apropos when it comes to being aesthetically pleasing. And so you can change that as well if you like. Now, we went over some of the tab stops here in the upper left-hand corner. We had it started with the left, I believe, center, and then it goes to the right. You have to hover off and hover back over. And then it goes to the decimal tab stop. With these three selected, if I go ahead and click and drag the right tab off, and you see these decimals here, I can actually use the decimal stop to be able to stop everything so it's aligned to the decimals here. So with it selected here, come back up here, click and drag it. It doesn't matter wherever you want to drag it here, just to make my point. You see, before I let go of the mouse button, how the line goes right down the decimals there. So you can do a decimal line, and I can do it so it makes it look like it's a right align. But of course it's not right next to the 6.5 inch marker, but I can get it pretty close. In any case, we'll let go of that. And there we go. And then of course the leaders have now disappeared, so I have to reset them. So go ahead and click and drag if you want to do that. And then double click. Now that we changed the tab stop for these three paragraphs, not the top one, that's still 6.5 inch, but for what I have selected, it's now at the 5.88, and we can set the leader to ... set, click OK. I know the cost isn't there, but you get the idea of what I'm trying to accomplish here, is to let you know what these tab stops do. Let me toggle again. You have the bar stop, or the bar tab. Hopefully you don't have to pick up on that, on anybody's bar tab. And let me hit enter. And notice how these follow us onto the next line. If you don't want them to follow with you every time you hit the enter key on the keyboard, just go ahead and remove them from this line here, and you can hit enter, 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 and you see it's no longer creating the pattern or copying from one line or paragraph to the next. So here's the bar here. Wherever I go ahead and put the bar tab, like on the 1 inch, he's going to take care of the bar. All it does is it just adds a line there. When you hit the tab key, it doesn't go right to it. Again, it just adds the bar tab. Let me hit the backspace key, hit enter, keep hitting enter, and it keeps following me here until I decide to remove the bar tab. So any future enters that I hit on the keyboard, it doesn't continue with that line there. And then toggling through, you can also set the first line indent, which we haven't covered yet, but we will cover. And you can see it's right there, the first line indent. You can click and drag it over, or hit undo, or simply with it selected, just go ahead and click anywhere on the horizontal ruler, and it moves it for you to that point without having to click and drag it, which is nice because, again, working with those little teeny tiny objects gets a little bit hard, so it's nice to come over here and select them and then click anywhere on it without having to click on those tiny things and try to drag them around. And toggle through, and then there's the bottom here, the left indent or the hanging indent, and this one's called the hanging indent. So with it selected, you can click over here and it moves the bottom portion over. But we'll talk about that in a later training video. Right now, just know that it's there, so you have an idea of what you can do after we cover the first line indent and the hanging indent and also the left indent, which, if we toggle through this, it doesn't have. And then, of course, to move it back, you can hit the undo arrow or just click and drag. Now, if I drag the bottom one, which is, let me move it back, when you hover over that bottom square, the left indent, it also moves the first line indent. But if I click on the hanging indent, that little triangle up above, drag that back, it won't move the first line indent in any case. That's not the point. We'll cover that in a later training video, but I wanted to give you enough in case if you get in trouble and you accidentally click on it and it moves the first line or the left indent or the hanging indent over, how you can move that back. To learn more about this, we'll cover it in the paragraph indents training video.